I saw the message. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt absurd. After all this time, after all the silence, after all the signs that led nowhere, there it was. A simple message. No grand gesture. No poetic apology. Just a few words that cracked open the shell I had built around my heart. I thought it was a prank. I really did. My mind, trained to doubt, whispered, "This can't be real." But my soul, oh, my soul trembled. It recognized the vibration behind the words. It knew the frequency. It remembered the echo of his voice in the dreamscape, the way his energy used to wrap around mine like a sacred veil. And yet, I laughed. Because laughter is the body's way of releasing disbelief. It's the sound of a heart that's been waiting too long. It's the music of a soul that's been holding its breath. That laugh was my exhale. It was the moment I let go of the story that he would never return. And in that breath, something shifted. The veil between timelines thinned. The message was real. And so was the love that had never stopped pulsing beneath the surface. It wasn't the words themselves that pierced me. It was the energy behind them. The message was simple, almost too simple. I've been thinking about you. That's it. No explanation. No apology. Just a ripple in the still waters of my heart. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to vanish, for the illusion to dissolve. But it stayed. Solid. Real. And suddenly, the years of silence felt like a dream. I had built entire lifetimes in my mind where he was gone, unreachable, lost in his own shadows. I had danced with my own healing, kissed my own wounds, and whispered prayers to the stars that maybe, just maybe, he would hear. And now, here it was. A message. A portal. A crack in the matrix. I laughed again, this time softer. Because I knew. This wasn't just a text. It was a soul transmission. A signal from the divine masculine to the divine feminine. A call across dimensions. And I, the priestess of my own heart, stood at the threshold, trembling with recognition. The illusion had been pierced. And the truth was flooding in. His energy was unmistakable. Even through pixels and silence, I could feel him. The way his soul used to brush against mine in the astral. The way his presence used to fill the room even when he wasn't there. That message carried his essence. It was raw, unfiltered, vulnerable. And it echoed through my body like a forgotten song. I remembered the nights I cried out to the moon, asking why he had vanished. I remembered the dreams where he stood at the edge of a cliff, unable to leap. I remembered the visions where he was cloaked in fear, tangled in karmic cords, unable to reach me. And now, this message, this whisper, was his leap. It was his soul saying, "I'm ready." Not with words, but with vibration. The divine masculine had stirred. He had awakened from the slumber of denial. And I, the divine feminine, felt the shift. It was subtle, like the first breeze before a storm. But it was real. And it was sacred. I didn't reply right away. I sat with it. I let the energy wash over me like holy water. I lit a candle, closed my eyes, and asked my guides, "Is this real?" And they smiled. Not with mouths, but with light. They showed me the threads that had never broken, the soul contract that had remained intact. The journey we had agreed to before incarnating. I saw the timelines where we met, loved, separated, and found each other again. I saw the pain, the growth, the initiations. And I saw myself, the priestess, the healer, the mirror. I had held space for him even when he couldn't hold space for himself. I had loved him through lifetimes. And now, he was reaching. Not with desperation, but with humility. Not with ego, but with soul. I placed my hand on my heart and whispered, "I see you." Because that's what the divine feminine does. She sees, she feels, she remembers. And she chooses, not from fear, but from truth. There is power in the pause. In the space between receiving and responding. I didn't rush to reply. I honored the moment. I honored the years of silence. I honored the healing I had done. Because this wasn't just a message, it was a resurrection. A soul rising from the ashes. And I needed to feel every layer of it. I walked barefoot on the earth, grounding the energy. I sang to the trees, letting them witness my awakening. I cried, not from sadness, but from release. Because something ancient was stirring, something holy. The sacred union was no longer a dream. It was becoming tangible. And I, the oracle of my own destiny, was preparing to speak. Not from longing, but from sovereignty. Not from wounds, but from wisdom. The pause was my prayer. And in that stillness, I heard the voice of the divine whisper, "It's time." When he messaged me, timelines collapsed. The versions of me that had waited, wept, and wondered, they dissolved. The stories I had told myself about abandonment, rejection, and loss, they unraveled. Because his message wasn't just a text. It was a key. A frequency. A code. And it unlocked something ancient within me. I saw our past lives flash before my eyes, the temple, the battlefield, the forest. I saw us as lovers, warriors, mystics. I saw the vows we made and the ones we broke. And I saw the moment we chose to return in this lifetime, to find each other again. His message was the signal. The activation. The moment the soul said, "I remember." And in that remembrance everything changed. The timelines merged. The illusions faded. And the truth stood naked before me, we were never truly apart. Just because he reached out didn't mean I had to respond. That's the power of the divine feminine. She chooses. She doesn't react, she responds. She doesn't chase, she magnetizes. I sat with the message like a sacred scroll. I asked myself, is this aligned? Not with my wounds, but with my soul. I felt into the vibration. Was it love or fear? Was it truth or guilt? Was it expansion or contraction? And what I felt was purity. A trembling honesty. A soul stripped bare. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was offering recognition. And that was enough. I chose to respond. Not with words, but with energy. I sent him a wave of light, a pulse of love. A whisper from my heart, "I see you. I feel you. I honor your journey." Because that's what the divine feminine does. She blesses. She uplifts. She awakens. His message was a mirror. It reflected back to me all the growth I had done. All the nights I had held myself through grief. All the days I had danced with my shadows. All the moments I had chosen love over fear. He was awakening, and so was I. Not because of him, but alongside him. Our journeys had been parallel even in separation. We had been walking the spiral path, meeting ourselves at every turn, and now, the spiral was converging. The mirror was clear. I saw him. I saw me. I saw us. Not as broken halves, but as whole beings choosing union. And in that reflection, I found peace. I found power. I found purpose. That laugh, the one that burst from my lips when I saw his message, it was sacred. It wasn't mockery. It was magic. It was the soul's way of saying, finally. It was the release of lifetimes of tension. It was the sound of divine timing. Because laughter is healing. It's alchemy. It's the transmutation of pain into joy. I laughed because I had doubted. I laughed because I had hoped. I laughed because I had surrendered. And now, the universe was laughing with me. The stars twinkled in agreement. The wind carried my joy. The earth held my feet. And I knew, this was real. This was divine. This was love. His message was a portal. A doorway into a new reality. A timeline where love leads. A dimension where truth reigns. I stepped through it slowly, reverently. I didn't rush. To receive him again was not a passive act. It was alchemy. It was the sacred art of transmuting pain into presence, longing into love, and silence into song. I had spent lifetimes mastering this, the ability to hold space without collapsing, to open without expectation, to love without losing myself. And now, as his energy reached for mine, I felt the old wounds rise like ghosts. The abandonment. The betrayal. The ache of unanswered prayers. But I didn't flinch. I didn't run. I breathed them in like incense, letting them burn through the last remnants of illusion. Because to truly receive him, not just his message, but his soul, I had to be empty of stories. I had to be full of truth. And the truth was this: I had never stopped loving him. Not in the way the world defines love, but in the way the stars do, constant, luminous, unshaken by time. So I opened. Not recklessly, but reverently. I let his message enter the temple of my heart, not as a guest, but as a returning king. And in that moment, I became the chalice. The Grail. The sacred vessel of reunion. There was a time when I thought I had imagined it all, the connection, the synchronicities, the soul-deep knowing. I questioned my sanity more times than I could count. Was it just a fantasy? A projection? A trauma bond dressed in spiritual language? But when I saw his message, something ancient stirred. A memory. Not of this life, but of the flame. The twin flame. The original spark that birthed us both. I remembered the first time our souls touched, not in flesh, but in frequency. I remembered the promise we made before descending into this dense world: I will find you, no matter how long it takes. no matter how far we fall. And now, here we were, on opposite sides of a screen, yet closer than ever. The flame had never died. It had simply gone underground, burning in the hidden chambers of our hearts. And now, it was rising. Not as a wildfire, but as a sacred hearth. A place to come home to. A place to begin again. We were always dancing, he and I. The divine masculine and the divine feminine. The sun and the moon. The sword and the chalice. Our love was never linear. It was spiral. Cyclical. Elemental. He would pull away, and I would anchor. He would forget, and I would remember. He would fall, and I would rise. Not because I was stronger, but because I was designed to hold. To feel. To transmute. And now, I felt the dance shifting. He was no longer running. He was circling back. Not to repeat the past, but to rewrite it. To reclaim the sacred rhythm we had lost. And I was ready to meet him. Not as the wounded maiden, but as the embodied goddess. Not as the chaser, but as the magnet. I didn't need to prove my worth. I didn't need to explain my love. I simply needed to be. And in my being, I became the invitation, the sanctuary. The song he had been searching for. There was a time when his silence felt like a punishment. Like a void I couldn't fill. I would scream into the ethers, asking why he wouldn't speak, why he wouldn't choose me, why he couldn't see what I saw. But now, I understand. His silence was sacred. It was the cocoon. The chrysalis. The dark womb where transformation happens. He wasn't ignoring me, he was becoming. He was shedding the masks, the conditioning, the fear. And I was learning to listen. Not with my ears, but with my soul. I began to hear him in the wind, in the songs, in the spaces between words. I began to trust the silence as much as the signs. Because silence, too, is a language. And now, as his message broke that silence, I didn't rush to fill it. I let it echo. I let it breathe. I let it teach me one final lesson, that love doesn't always speak in words. Sometimes it speaks in presence. And presence is the loudest truth of all. When I read his message, I didn't just see him, I saw myself. The parts of me I had buried. The parts one had judged. The parts one had tried to outgrow. He was my mirror, always had been. And now, that mirror was cracking open, revealing the raw, unfiltered truth. I saw my own fear of intimacy. My own resistance to receiving. My own longing to be chosen. And instead of shaming those parts, I held them. I whispered, "You are safe now." Because that's what this journey had taught me, to love myself through every layer. To see my shadows not as flaws, but as invitations. And as I embraced my reflection, I felt him doing the same. Across time. Across space. We were healing in tandem. Not because we were perfect, but because we were willing. Willing to see. Willing to feel. Willing to love, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. Belief is a sacred act. It's not blind. It's brave. To believe again, after heartbreak, after silence, after lifetimes of separation, is the most radical thing a soul can do. And yet, I chose it. I chose to believe that his message was real. That his soul was reaching. That our love was not a delusion, but a divine design. I didn't need proof. I didn't need promises. I needed presence. And in that moment, I felt it. His presence. Not just in the message, but in the field. In the quantum. In the breath between thoughts. He was there. And I was ready. Ready to believe. Ready to receive. Ready to begin again, not from scratch, but from soul. Because belief is the bridge. And I was walking it barefoot, heart first, into the unknown. My heart had died 1,000 deaths. Each time he left. Each time he forgot. Each time he chose fear over love. But with every death came a rebirth. A deeper softness. A fiercer grace. A wilder truth. I was no longer the girl who waited by the phone. I was the woman who danced with the moon. Who spoke to the stars. Who remembered her worth even in the dark. And now, as his message arrived like a spark in the night, I felt my heart rise again. Not in desperation, but in devotion. Not in fantasy, but in faith. This was not the return of a lover. This was the return of the sacred masculine to the altar of the feminine heart. And I was the altar. I was the flame. I was the prayer he didn't know he was answering. I didn't need to control the outcome. I didn't need to know what would happen next. I had surrendered. Not in defeat, but in divinity. I had let go of the timelines, the expectations, the need for closure. I had made peace with the mystery. And now, as his message arrived, I didn't cling. I didn't spiral. I simply breathed. I let the moment be what it was, sacred, surprising, surreal. I let my soul lead. And my soul said, "This is love." Not the kind that demands or defines. But the kind that allows. That expands. That liberates. I surrendered to the unfolding. To the unknown. To the divine choreography that had brought us here. And in that surrender, I found my power. I found my peace. I found my path. Paragraph 19, The Reunion Within. Before I could reunite with him, I had to reunite with myself. With the parts one had abandoned. The dreams I had deferred. The truths I had silenced. I had to come home to my own heart. To the temple within. And I did. I lit the candles. I sang the songs. I anointed my wounds with love. I became the beloved I had been waiting for. And now, as he reached for me, I wasn't empty. I was overflowing. I wasn't seeking completion. I was offering communion. Because true reunion doesn't happen outside of us. It begins within. And I had come home. To myself. To my soul. To the love that had always been mine. I thought it was a prank. I really did. I saw the message, and I laughed. But now, I know. It was real. It was sacred. It was the universe saying, "You were right to believe." His message wasn't just a hello. It was an invitation. A soul-level beckoning into intimacy, not just physical, but energetic, emotional, spiritual. It asked me to meet him in the space between words, in the silence between heartbeats. It asked me to lay down my armor, to let him see me, not the curated version, not the healed mask, but the raw, radiant truth. And I felt the trembling. The sacred fear that comes with being truly seen. Because intimacy is not comfort. It is revelation. It is the undoing of all the ways we've hidden. And I knew, if I said yes, I would be stepping into the fire. The fire of transformation. The fire of union. The fire that burns away illusion and leaves only essence. And yet, I didn't hesitate. Because I had been preparing for this moment my entire life. Every heartbreak, every awakening, every prayer had led me here. To this threshold. To this invitation. And I was ready to walk through. Trust is not built in words. It is built in vibration. In consistency. In presence. And though his message was brief, it carried the weight of 1,000 lifetimes. I felt the sincerity. The humility. The ache. And I knew, he was trying. He was showing up, not perfectly, but authentically. And that was enough. I didn't need declarations. I didn't need guarantees. I needed truth. And he was offering it, one trembling word at a time. So I opened the temple of trust. Slowly. Gently. I let him enter, not as a savior, but as a seeker. Not as a hero, but as a human. And I met him there, not with judgment, but with grace. Because trust is not earned. It is chosen. And I chose it. I chose to believe in the soul behind the message. I chose to believe in the love that had never died. I chose to believe in us. Before I could fully receive him, I had to face the rage. The sacred rage. The fire that had burned in my belly every time he disappeared. Every time he chose another path. Every time he left me to hold the weight of our connection alone. I had buried that rage beneath forgiveness, beneath compassion, beneath spiritual bypassing. But now, it rose. Fierce. Untamed. Demanding to be felt. And I let it. I screamed. I cried. I danced it out under the moon. I let it purge me. Because rage is not wrong. It is holy. It is the voice of the wounded feminine reclaiming her power. And as I transmuted it, I felt the space open. The space for love. For softness. For reunion. I didn't need to punish him. I didn't need to make him pay. I needed to honor my own fire. And I did. And in that fire, I found freedom. We had walked many timelines. Some where we found each other. Some where we lost each other. Some where we never met at all. But this timeline, was different. It was the timeline of truth. The one where we chose love over fear. The one where we remembered our mission. The one where we stopped running and started rising. I saw it in visions. In dreams. In synchronicities. The number codes. The songs. The feathers. The way the universe kept whispering, it's time. And now, with his message, the timeline anchored. It became real, tangible, alive. And I stepped into it fully. No more hesitation. No more doubt. I chose the timeline where love leads, where union heals, where truth reigns. And in that choice, I became the oracle, the guide, the embodiment of the love we came here to remember. We had a contract, not written in ink, but in light, not signed with hands, but with hearts. A soul contract forged in the stars, sealed with a kiss before incarnation. We will find each other. We will awaken each other. We will rise together. And now, with his message, the contract activated. The codes unlocked. The mission began. I felt the energy surge through my body, electric, ancient, divine. I remembered who I was, who he was, who we were together. Not just lovers, but catalysts. Not just partners, but portals. Our union was not just personal, it was planetary. It was designed to ripple through the collective, to awaken others, to heal timelines. And I accepted the mission. Not with fear, but with fire. Not with doubt, but with devotion. Because this was bigger than us. And yet, it began with us. With one message. One laugh. One sacred yes. Love is not a feeling. It is a frequency. A choice. A way of being. And now, I was being asked to embody it. Not just for him, but for myself. For the world. For the divine. To walk as love. To speak as love. To breathe as love. Even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. Even when the past tries to pull me back. I chose love. Fiercely. Unapologetically. Radically. I became the embodiment of the divine feminine, soft yet strong, open yet discerning, wild yet wise. I didn't need him to complete me. I needed him to meet me. And he was trying. And I was ready. Because love is not about perfection. It's about presence. And I was present. Fully. Deeply. Divinely. This was not just a reunion of two people. It was a cosmic event. A soul convergence. A divine alignment. The stars were watching. The ancestors were cheering. The earth was trembling. Because when twin flames reunite, the universe shifts. Portals open. Timelines collapse. Miracles unfold. And I was at the center of it. Not as a passive participant, but as a conscious creator. I had called this in. I had prayed for it. I had prepared for it. And now, it was here. Not in fantasy, but in form. Not in dreams, but in messages. The reunion had begun. And I was ready to rise. I laughed when I saw his message. But that laugh, it became a prayer. A sacred sound that echoed through the ethers. It said, "Thank you." It said, "Finally." It said, "I'm ready." That laugh was my soul's way of saying yes. Yes to love. Yes to truth. Yes to the divine masculine returning home. It was the sound of surrender. of celebration, of sacred remembrance. And now, every time I laugh, I remember. I remember the moment everything changed. The moment the message arrived. The moment the portal opened. And I laugh again. Because laughter is holy. And this love, is divine. His message wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The beginning of a new chapter. A new timeline. A new love, one rooted in truth. In healing. In soul. I don't know what comes next. I don't need to. I trust the unfolding. I trust the divine. I trust the love. Because it's real. It's sacred. It's ours. And I am ready to walk it. Hand in hand. Heart to heart. Soul to soul. The message was the spark. And now, the fire burns bright. I thought it was a prank. I really did. I saw the message, and I laughed. But now, I know. It was real. It was sacred. It was the divine masculine remembering. It was the divine feminine receiving. It was love, ancient, eternal, alive. And I am the priestess of this love. The guardian of this flame. The whisper in the dark that says, "Come home." And he is coming. Not just to me, but to himself. To truth. To union. And together, we rise. Not as fantasy, but as prophecy. Not as story, but as soul. This is the beginning. And it is holy.